Two candidates, two legal issues. Now, in a minute, we're going to get to the lawsuit against Trump University. But first, the FBI investigating Hillary Clinton's usage of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. Donald apparently saying legal woes could stop her from even running. Take a listen.
Once we get all of this finished, I'm going to go after one person. That's Hillary Clinton, on the assumption she's allowed to run, which is a big assumption. I don't know that she's going to be allowed to run.
I don't know. All right, let's bring in the attorneys right now. Doug Von Oys, founding partner. Yes, exactly. Of Carson Von Oys, focusing on corporate misconduct. Selected by the Legal 500 as one of the most influential trial lawyers in the country. Bill Aronwald, defense attorney, former assistant U.S. attorney. And Mark Furnish, professor at Brooklyn Law, and he's argued before the U.S. Supreme Court. We'll talk about the Supreme Court in a second. All right, Doug, tempest in a teapot. I mean, depending who I talk to, and all you guys know certainly a lot of folks, both former prosecutors, a couple of you guys, and also that there's something there. Chicago's struggling with this thing. On the flip side, she's released the balance of them, and there's no there. What's the thought? Does she have something to worry about or no?
Well, anybody can say anything. So and I don't think Donald Trump's worried about saying, things are going to happen in the future. Listen, if there's an investigation that's going forward, at the conclusion of the investigation, if there's something there, they'll have it. If not, I don't even think it's worth speculating.
Well, for TV purposes, let's play along and give it a shot. To me, I don't know, Bill. It just seems you go to prior secretaries of state, similar problems. I mean, including Colin Powell and those before him. I don't know. Wouldn't you think by now we would have thought, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've been looking at these the State Department has been releasing these emails incrementally. I mean, and the FBI has been looking at them, and so far they've not found any smoking gun. They haven't found any document that actually was marked classified. I mean, I think the Department of Justice last week said that so far they haven't found any evidence of criminality. Now, the last batch has just been released, but I think that's just Trump blowing smoke. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think that obviously it's going to be a tough call if the FBI comes up with evidence that would suggest that she could be criminally charged.
Yep.
You got a Democratic administration, an administration in which she was the Secretary of State, and under those circumstances, is it going to basically work its way through to an indictment? I doubt it, but I doubt it because I don't think there's any smoking gun there. I don't think there's going to be any evidence to sustain a charge.
And for whatever it's worth, Mark, I've heard from folks like you guys have forgotten more than I'll know about this, the same thing, except the only complication would be it's statute, and it's black and white, and whether or not it was classified at the time or not, if it was at all shared, there could be a problem.
She would have had to have acted knowingly and intentionally for criminal liability to attach. Look, this is not going to amount to any prosecution. I'll go out on a limb and say it. I think there's next to no likelihood of that happening. But it's not like anyone's going to come out with a megaphone and exonerate her or exculpate her either. It's just going to drag on and be out there. And Trump's going to be able, or whoever the nominee is going to be able to use it and make political hay out of it. It's going to cloud her and it's going to impugn her, but it's not going to.
Translation, everybody, expect to hear about emails in Benghazi from now to November. All right, now let's get to Mr. Trump. A judge just ruled the New York Attorney General's lawsuit against Trump University can, I repeat, can proceed. Suit claims the school convinced thousands of students to pay thousands of dollars each so they could learn the Donald's real estate investing tricks. But all they got at the end of the day, a photo with a cutout of Trump, not the real version.
That sounds to me like a good education in his real estate investment tips.
Tough love. And also, the lawsuit claims broken promises. It also had to strip the word university from the name as it was never accredited. I'll get to the tax issue in a second, Bill, but Mark, I'll start with you. It seems he's got a problem here. And it certainly seems that Mr. Schneiderman is not going to let this thing go.
Well, forgetting about Schneiderman, I thought Cruz used it very effectively in the most recent debate. So much like the other allegations are going to cloud Hillary, this is going to hang around and dog Trump as well. But, he's a businessman and he's got lawsuits that he's been the defendant in that are as big as the stack of the tax returns that haven't been released yet. So it's going to be around. But look, there's a big difference between an intermediate appeals court declining to throw out a civil case against a private businessman and allegations of criminal misconduct in office by a former Secretary of State. I'm not saying they have merit, but it's sort of an apples and oranges comparison.
I think the real problem, I think that this Trump University lawsuit is really going to be something that can make the difference, because it's not so much the lawsuit, it's the allegations in the lawsuit. You got the New York State Attorney General filing a lawsuit accusing Trump of a bait and switch, where he basically defrauded over 5,000 people of money, as much as $35,000 per student, on the promise that he was going to teach them about real estate investing with his hand-picked instructors. And it turns out none of the hand-picked instructors were ever picked by him. He didn't know them, and none of them had any real estate investing experience. The court has also held that he could be personally liable. So basically, you're talking about a litigation where there are allegations that he deliberately defrauded people, and whether it rises to a level of criminality, I mean, that's really
criminality in office, though.
That's right.
That's a different deal.
Yeah, but
see, I actually had a different reaction. I thought the fact that it was brought by a Democratic AG in New York is something that Trump could spin to his advantage. I was under the impression that it was just a regular class action suit brought by a plaintiff's lawyer, like Doug over here, and I thought it would have been more effective that way, because he could say it's a political assassination campaign. The allegations are bad, even if he's a private citizen, and one of the allegations, it's beyond dismissal, the fact that he's misusing the name university without a license. That's already. He's been
and the
found
details
liable
in
for
it,
that.
I mean, that he literally, the list of lenders, they photocopied it out of a page of a magazine, there was they didn't even go through the pretense of trying to actually give these kids an education.
But as Mark just said, and the important thing is it's sort of been glossed over, is the fact that judgment has already been entered against him on the claim that he operated a, quote, a university without being licensed by the state of New York to do so.
That is a sharp picture. It's a different hairstyle in the picture, though, when you
Still
compare
orange,
it to
though.
that one.
How about the tax returns? And more specifically, on a broader level, ethically, should a candidate release the tax returns? And also, I think in his particular case, certainly as it relates to, with a lot of the claims against him, should he put out on the table his personal returns?
Well, in a case like this with Donald Trump, everybody reflexively says, yeah, he should. But the reality is, if you're trying to get good people to run for office, why would his tax returns have anything to do with him being qualified to be president of the United States? Really, honestly, isn't that?
I've heard that
don't you have
argument
some
many times before. I
privacy?
see Bill itching to answer.
Well, look, I don't have an issue with him saying I don't want to release my tax returns. If you don't want to release them, you don't want to release them, and you let the chips fall where they may. But when he basically says I'd like to release them, but I can't because I'm under audit, I mean that's absolute nonsense, because he filed the returns under penalties of perjury. I mean, here's a guy, and so regardless of whether you're under audit or not, either you're going to release the returns or not. And I think to your question, here's a guy who's basically claiming he's worth $10 billion. And maybe the reason he doesn't want to release the tax returns is because the tax returns are going to show that that's just a bogus claim. And maybe he understated income, overstated expenses. Look for loopholes. So I think that under the circumstances, he would have been better off saying, that's private and I'm not going to release it, and then take the hit for it.
And to quote you guys, to your argument, which makes a lot of sense, maybe bad case makes bad law. I've always been waiting to use that word. All right, coming up next, I have used it before. Supreme Court today debated an abortion case. How it turns out, it really could change things everywhere. Stay with us.